Rain was falling hard on the white wedding chairs while everyone else sat warm and dry. She stood alone outside like she did not belong to her own family. People laughed, phones came out, whispers spread. They called her husband poor, weak, invisible. But they did not know what he was about to do. One quiet move. One phone call. And within hours the same people who mocked them would be begging for forgiveness. This moment would change everything. And the internet would never forget what happened next. The story begins. Her name was Emily Carter. She was born in a small town in Oregon where mornings smelled like pine trees and coffee. Emily was the kind of girl who learned early how to stay quiet. Her parents loved order, status, and appearances. Her older sister Madison was everything they admired: loud, confident, always dressed perfectly. From childhood, Emily learned that being second meant being invisible. Emily grew up watching Madison receive praise for everything. Good grades, perfect smile, popular friends. When Emily achieved something, it was met with a nod or silence. She learned not to complain. She learned not to expect. Years later, both sisters were adults. Madison moved to California, married into wealth, and planned a luxury outdoor wedding at a vineyard. Emily stayed simple, worked as a school librarian, married a man named Daniel Brooks. Daniel was calm, thoughtful, and deeply intelligent. He wore plain clothes, drove an old car, and spoke only when needed. To many people he looked ordinary. To those who knew him, he was solid and unshakable. Madison never liked Daniel. She called him boring. She told people Emily could have done better. Emily never defended herself. She loved Daniel quietly and completely. When the wedding invitation arrived, it was elegant, heavy paper, gold letters. Emily felt nervous but hopeful. She wanted to believe her sister had grown kinder. Daniel noticed Emily reading the card again and again. He told her they would go together and everything would be fine. The wedding day arrived under dark gray clouds. Guests wore designer coats and expensive shoes. The ceremony space was beautiful: flowers, white fabric, candles. But something was wrong. Emily and Daniel were not shown to seats with the family. An assistant told them to wait. Minutes passed. Then Madison appeared, smiling, cold. She said there was a small issue with seating. She said family was very important today. She said Emily would understand. Emily was guided to a small area outside the covered space. There were no chairs. Just wet ground and rain beginning to fall. Daniel asked calmly why. Madison laughed and said it was temporary. She said they had limited space. She said Daniel should not make a scene. Guests stared. Whispers started. Someone took a photo. Rain grew heavier. Emily felt soaked, embarrassed, humiliated. Her parents sat in the front row, dry and silent. They did not look back. Daniel removed his jacket and held it over Emily. He said nothing, but his eyes changed. He looked at the vineyard, the guests, the staff, the cameras. He took out his phone and walked a few steps away. Emily thought he was calling a ride. She thought they might leave quietly like always. Instead, Daniel made one call. Then another. Rain continued to fall. The ceremony began without them. No one noticed Daniel typing messages calmly. No one noticed his stillness. Emily whispered that they should go. Daniel said softly, just a little longer. 10 minutes later, several black vehicles arrived at the vineyard entrance. Security staff became nervous. A man in a tailored suit approached the wedding coordinator. Whispers turned into confusion. Madison stopped smiling. Emily did not understand yet. But everything was about to change. The man in the tailored suit walked with purpose through the wet gravel. He did not rush. He did not smile. Every step pulled attention away from the ceremony. The music slowed, then stopped. Guests turned in their seats. Phones lifted again. The coordinator whispered to Madison. Her face drained of color. She laughed nervously, thinking it was a mistake. The man asked a simple question. Is Daniel Brooks present? Silence spread. Daniel stepped forward, still holding the jacket over Emily. He answered yes. The man nodded with respect. He introduced himself as a senior legal representative for the property. He said there was an urgent issue regarding ownership and contractual rights. He said the ceremony needed to pause. Madison protested. She said everything was paid. She said this was her wedding day. The man replied calmly that the venue had changed controlling interest 3 months ago. He said the new owner had certain conditions regarding events and guest treatment. Daniel placed the jacket fully around Emily and guided her forward. People moved aside without realizing why. Rain continued, but no one cared now. The man looked directly at Daniel and asked if he wished to proceed. Daniel said yes. The representative turned to the coordinator and said the event was temporarily suspended. All staff froze. Emily felt her heart pounding. She whispered, asking Daniel what was happening. Daniel told her quietly that he had hoped he would never need to do this. He said he believed in dignity, not revenge. But he would not allow her to be humiliated. Madison shouted, asking what kind of game this was. Daniel looked at her for the first time. He said this was not a game. He said this was a lesson. The representative explained that Daniel was a silent partner in the investment firm that acquired majority rights to the vineyard. He explained that Daniel had never interfered with operations, but he had full authority in matters involving ethics and treatment of guests. Gasps spread. Emily felt dizzy. She looked at Daniel, the man she thought she fully knew, the man everyone called poor. Daniel continued calmly. He said he did not need money to feel powerful. He said he believed how people treated others revealed everything. He gestured toward the rain-soaked ground. He asked Madison if this reflected family values. Madison looked at her parents. They looked away. The representative stated that due to a violation of venue conduct policy, the ceremony would be moved under review. Guests were asked to step inside the main hall. Staff rushed. Umbrellas appeared. Emily was guided inside first. People whispered her name now with fear and curiosity. Inside the hall, warmth surrounded them. Emily was given a seat near the front. Daniel sat beside her, holding her hand. Madison paced, shaking. She demanded explanations. Daniel told her simply that he had funded the vineyard rescue when it faced bankruptcy. He had asked only one thing: that it remain a place of respect. He said he never told Emily because he wanted a quiet life. He said wealth was a tool, not an identity. Madison cried, accusing him of ruining her day. Daniel replied that she ruined it herself. He asked why Emily was placed outside. Madison said it was about appearances. She said Emily did not fit the image. Those words echoed. Emily finally spoke. Her voice was steady. She said she had spent her life trying to fit into spaces where she was never wanted. She said today showed her the truth. Their parents tried to intervene. They said it was a misunderstanding. They said emotions were high. Daniel stood. He said misunderstandings do not leave people in the rain. He told the representative to proceed. The announcement came quietly but clearly. The wedding would be postponed pending review. Guests were free to leave. Chaos followed. Some guests argued. Others slipped out embarrassed. Phones were everywhere. Videos were uploaded. The title wrote itself. That night, the clip of Emily standing in the rain went viral. Then the follow-up. The quiet husband who owned the venue. Millions watched. Emily sat in a hotel room wrapped in a blanket. Daniel brought her tea. He apologized for not telling her sooner. Emily said she did not care about the money. She cared that he stood beside her. Messages flooded in. Support from strangers. Apologies from relatives. Madison tried calling. Emily did not answer. Outside, the rain finally stopped. Morning came slowly. Light slipped through the hotel curtains. Emily woke with swollen eyes but a calm heart. Her phone vibrated non-stop. Messages from unknown numbers. People saying they were proud. People saying they were sorry. People asking if the story was real. Daniel was already awake. He stood near the window looking out at the quiet street. He turned and smiled softly when she sat up. He asked how she felt. Emily said lighter. As if something heavy she carried her whole life had finally been set down. The video spread everywhere. Morning shows, blogs, reaction channels. Everyone talked about the American girl left in the rain. Everyone talked about the quiet husband. Comment sections were filled with anger and praise. Some blamed the sister. Some blamed the parents. Most praised Daniel for dignity. Emily avoided watching. She did not want the moment to define her. She wanted to move forward. But the past refused to stay quiet. Her mother called first, crying, saying they never meant for things to go that far. Saying Madison was under stress. Saying family should forgive. Emily listened silently. Then she spoke carefully. She said being family never protected her before. She said love without respect was empty. She said she needed space. Her father texted later. Short words. Pride mixed with regret. Madison sent dozens of messages. Angry ones. Then desperate ones. Then silent. 3 days later Daniel received a formal request. The vineyard board wanted a meeting. Sponsors were pulling out. Public pressure was intense. Daniel asked Emily what she wanted. She said she did not want revenge. She wanted accountability. At the meeting Daniel spoke plainly. He said the issue was not a wedding. It was values. He said the venue would issue a public apology. He said staff training would change. He said part of the profits would go to programs supporting emotional abuse survivors. The board agreed quickly. Another wave of respect followed online. Emily received an email from a publisher. They wanted her story. Not the drama. The healing. She hesitated. Then agreed. Weeks passed. Life slowed. Emily returned to the library. Students recognized her. Some smiled. Some asked questions. She answered gently. She said power did not come from money. It came from knowing your worth. Daniel remained quiet as always. No interviews. No statements. People admired him more for it. One afternoon Emily met Madison at a cafe. Public place. Clear boundaries. Madison looked smaller. Stripped of confidence. She apologized. Not fully, but enough to show cracks. Emily listened. She did not interrupt. She did not comfort. She said forgiveness was possible, but access was earned. Madison nodded. Their parents watched from a distance, unsure how to step forward. Emily and Daniel left the cafe together, hand in hand. Outside the sky was clear. Emily realized something important. She was never weak. She was just waiting for someone to stand beside her. And now she stood for herself. The weeks after the cafe meeting felt different. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just honest. Emily noticed how silence no longer scared her. She no longer filled it with apologies. She no longer shrank. Daniel watched this change quietly. Proud but never possessive. The publisher moved fast. They did not want a scandal book. They wanted a human one. Emily wrote at night. She wrote about childhood dinners where her voice disappeared. She wrote about learning to stay small. She wrote about that moment in the rain where something finally broke open. The story was not about Daniel saving her. It was about choosing herself. Daniel insisted on that. When the book announcement went public, reactions exploded again. But this time it was softer, deeper. Women wrote to her from all over America, saying they had stood in similar rain. At weddings. At offices. At family tables. Emily answered as many as she could. She did not offer advice. She offered understanding. Madison struggled publicly. Her postponed wedding never resumed. Sponsors vanished. Friends drifted. She blamed Emily at first. Then the internet. Then herself. One evening she came to Emily and Daniel's home unannounced. She looked exhausted. No makeup. No armor. She said she did not know who she was without approval. She said she had built her worth on attention. Emily listened. She recognized the fear. She told Madison that pain did not excuse cruelty. But healing required honesty. Madison cried. Not loudly. Just deeply. Emily did not hug her. But she did not close the door either. Their parents began therapy quietly. They did not announce it. They did not ask praise. They sent Emily a letter. Handwritten. Owning their failures. Emily read it twice. She did not forgive instantly. But she acknowledged the effort. Daniel was offered interviews, business deals, recognition. He declined most. He accepted one speaking engagement. Not about wealth. About restraint. He told the audience that power without empathy was emptiness. He said true strength was protection, not dominance. Clips went viral. Again. Emily worried fame would change them. Daniel promised it would not. They took a trip to the Oregon coast. No cameras. Just wind and waves. Standing by the water, Emily realized the rain at the wedding no longer hurt. It had washed something away. She had been forced into the rain. But she walked out clear. The book released quietly. then climbed fast. It became a symbol, not of revenge, of boundaries. Emily dedicated it to anyone who learned too late that silence was not kindness. At a small local event, a young girl asked Emily how to become strong. Emily smiled. She said strength begins the moment you stop asking permission to exist. The final months of that year arrived quietly. No storms, no cameras waiting. Emily's life settled into something steady. Mornings with books and coffee. Evenings with Daniel and soft conversations. The world still remembered the rain. But Emily no longer lived inside it. Her book reached readers she never expected. Men wrote to fathers, brothers, husbands, saying they recognized moments when they stayed silent instead of standing up. Emily did not feel proud. She felt responsible. She began speaking at small gatherings, libraries, schools, community halls. She stood without notes. She told them dignity was not loud. It did not announce itself. It showed up when it mattered. Daniel sat in the back always. Never on stage. Never in the spotlight. Someone once asked him why he never corrected people who called him a hero. He answered simply, heroes seek credit. Partners seek peace. Madison slowly rebuilt her life. Not online. Not publicly. She volunteered at a shelter. She learned what it meant to be unseen. It humbled her. One afternoon she sent Emily a message. Thank you for not destroying me when you could. Emily replied, growth is punishment enough. Their parents changed in quieter ways. They listened more. They interrupted less. They learned that love required action. Years later, another wedding invitation arrived. Cousin. Different state. Different family dynamic. Emily hesitated. Rain clouds were in the forecast. Daniel smiled. He said rain only mattered if you stood alone. They attended. They sat together. No one questioned their place. During the ceremony, a sudden shower passed. Guests laughed. Someone offered Emily an umbrella. Emily declined. She held Daniel's hand and smiled up at the sky. She was no longer afraid of rain. That old video still surfaced sometimes. New generations discovered it. Comment sections still burned. But the meaning shifted. It was no longer about power. It was about presence. Emily wrote one final chapter years later. Not published. Just for herself. She wrote that the worst thing her family ever did was teach her to accept less. And the best thing her husband ever did was remind her she never had to. She closed the notebook. She did not need it anymore. Outside rain tapped gently against the window. Emily did not move away. She stood strong. Dry inside. Whole.